Okay, I'm Ryan Spurgeon, one of the sales agronomists with Hoegemeyer Hybrids. I'm here with Craig Langmeyer, another agronomist with the company. We're in a cornfield here today, actually in a replicated trial of ours at Hooper, Nebraska that was planted on May 20th and received some pretty significant hail on the night of June 3rd. But overall, in our trade area, we had a year which was pretty conducive to some foliar disease development, especially as you move east and somewhat south of here. But overall, even in this neck of the woods, we saw some things that we weren't quite accustomed to. So we've got some multiple foliar diseases to show you, some genetic things, some fungal pathogens, and also a couple bacterial disease to talk about here today. We're going to try to zoom in on some of these. All these diseases or these symptoms are all found on plants in a very small area, within about a 15-yard radius of one another. The first one I'm going to point out here is common rust. Has kind of a brick red pustule, and you'll see it on the top and the back side of the leaves, which separates it from its nastier cousin, which is called southern rust, which is generally more of an orange color, and you'll only see that usually on the tops of the leaves. Common rust is just that; it's common. It's not really one that we worry about too much in terms of yield penalty, unless we have other diseases adding to, which this year could have been the case in some of the high disease pressure fields. Another one here is physoderma, which Craig's got in his hand here. That's another fungal disease that you'll see, but foliar fungicides aren't very good on it. That being said, it doesn't normally cause a lot of yield damage, but we're seeing a fair amount of it this year just from all the wetting that we had earlier in the year. You'll often see it start in a band across the leaf where the water sets at the leaf axil and then spread from there. The next one Craig's got here for a fungal foliar disease is gray leaf spot. That's just one single leaf there. There's not a whole lot of that going on in this field, but that one's very common. We battle that every year to some degree. It'll start usually down lower on the plant. The lesions are very rectangular in nature, and they don't ever go outside of the vein. So they may grow together and look and become bigger, but initially they're always going to stay within that vein. So they're pretty easy to distinguish. Your foliar fungicides are quite active against this in terms of giving protection. Here's a leaf that's showing physoderma again, which we already talked about, but it's also showing northern corn leaf blight lesion, which is something that showed up this year that was pretty significant because it's not real normal to our trade area, but based off the year we had, it raised its head. It's cigar-shaped lesions. It can spread pretty quickly, twice as fast as gray leaf spot if given the right conditions. So that's one that there were several fields that were sprayed specifically for northern corn leaf blight this year, as it came in full force in some areas. Just showing up here, but east of here and south, it's much heavier.
All right, I'm Craig Langmeyer, the other sales agronomist here with Hoegemeyer, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a few different genetic diseases, and then one I'm kind of passionate about would be Goss's wilt. So we can kind of see on this particular leaf right here, we saw a lesion develop here. We got a little bit of a slice in the leaf, probably from either the hail event or some wind early in the year, and the lesion has been progressing down the leaf. And as we get up into this area, we start to see some of those basically they call them freckles, or a discontinuous water soaked spot. It's kind of a distinguisher, and that's one way to tell it away from northern corn leaf blight. Also, we're usually going to see this one on the leaf margins more typically than what we would see it in the center of a leaf. This one is a bacteria, so fungicides do not work against it. And we have a very tolerant lineup. That's one thing we're very proud of here at Hoegemeyer, is our tolerant Goss's wilt lineup. So with that, and then we have a couple other things here just to show you that you may see if you're out walking fields. The first one's just a little bit of variegation, which is just a genetic basically disorder in the plant. Really not going to hurt anything. You might lose a little bit of photosynthesis, but you're not going to see very many of these in your field. They're kind of tough to find. The second one here is just going to be a genetic leaf spot. You can see this one here, it's basically got the entire leaf is just covered in speckles. The whole plant, top to bottom's got the same symptoms on it. But again, these are fairly rare out in the field, and just something you may see when you're out walking. If you had a question on, just keep that in mind in the future.
So in closing, we went over several different diseases that we saw this year. I feel like we're going to learn a lot this year from the amount of disease that was out there in some fields, of what fields that had foliar fungicide applied to them and which ones didn't. It wasn't a problem, foliar disease across our entire trade area, but a significant chunk of it, it was definitely something that we spent a lot of time looking at in the field. So we'll keep our eyes out and see how things progress. We're kind of past the point of we're getting past the point of foliar fungicide application on a lot of acres, except for we still worry about southern rust, if that could come in yet in the month of August. So that would be the one that we're going to keep our eye on here in the next 2 weeks, would be southern rust.